Surprise, surprise, folks. That's one of the big reasons why you subscribe and hit that bell for the notifications to know when we go live. Hurricanes Live on a Friday. How about that? 2 p.m. Eastern, right here with Cam Underwood from State of the U, as we do it each and every week. Cam, how's it going on this fine afternoon?
Going well, going well. Got all of my technical issues out of the way early today, so was able to make it here, this afternoon, man. But yeah, switched it up on you guys a little bit, sorpresa. So yeah, be sure you like, subscribe, to the channel and all those kind of things, so you can be here with us when we are here, which is often and usually Wednesday night at 7, but today, Friday at 2. So yeah, we're gonna have a good time.
And for those of you who would like to see it on Wednesday night, you can blame me this week. That was my personal calendar changing things. But one of the things that we've seen over the years that has been nice is when we do switch up the time from time to time, is that other people are able to catch the show and say, hey, I always watch you on the record, but I was able to catch you live because you moved the day on this particular time. So
Yeah.
whatever category you fall in, we appreciate you being here. We will take your comments and questions as we always do. And we might as well just start it out. Falconer TRX is here in the building with us. As always, we appreciate you.
My guy. Yeah.
Well, let's start with the nuts and bolts of the current football operation and an analyst added to the defense in one, Terry Jefferson, which I got to say, this is all you, Cam, because I know nothing about the gentleman.
Yeah, he's a guy who was like a grad assistant at Miami previously. Miami native, went to Booker T. Washington. He played at FAMU, his collegiate ball, for the HBCU at the FCS level. He was at Western Kentucky the last couple of years, helping them to a conference championship and very good passing defense. That's the position that he played. He was a defensive back. So he's going to be an analyst helping with the defensive backs. Also, like I said, he's a Miami guy who played, for Ice Harris over at Booker T and everything like that. I do believe. So, yeah, ties with the community, and he's going to help out defensive back coach Zach Etheridge with that, their performance and development in the same way that he did over at Western Kentucky. And that's, I think, a good get, especially when you consider that other analysts, guys who've been around through the high school coaching ranks and, from the grassroots up, like Benedict Hippolyte, who coached Carroll City to a state championship previously. He left the USF. Edward and Pata, Brian Pata's brother, who's from here, played here, coached here, all these things. He also has moved on to USF. So two of those like foundational grassroots guys, like maybe not your superstar coach, but like a guy who's, from the neighborhood, superstar player, coaching, connections, family, all of those things. You lose two of those guys in Hippolyte and Pata, you bring back a Terry Jefferson, and that fills a necessary role on the staff because, you need your top, your named assistants, those who go out on the field and recruit and things like that. You need those guys to be great, but you also need that connection to community, man. Like you talk about all these guys, these recruits who have gone elsewhere and there's some who have stayed, and you talk about those relationships. You talk about connecting to the city of Miami, to the heartbeat of this, strength of the talent base. Excuse me. You need those guys who are there, who are from there. You know what I mean? Like, you can build relationships all you want. I've built relationships all I want, but like, I'm not from Liberty City. There's a difference there. Or Carroll City, Alapata, whichever area you want to talk about. So yeah, getting Terry Jefferson back is a good move. I think it's a solid get for Miami. Serves a great purpose on the staff, and yeah, will be a value add as we move forward to the 2025 season.
This defensive backfield, of course, we talked about each and every week during the season, usually on negative terms. And we've talked a lot about it during this short off season already because of all the acquisitions. Is this the biggest overhaul of a position unit on either side of the ball?
Absolutely. Without question. Yeah. I mean, and it's funny because as I tweeted out the link to this here show, someone responded to a conversation I quoted a friend of mine, X, shout out to X, and he said, Bain and Mesidor were the only two automatic starters for next year's defense. And I said, I'm adding OJ Frederick and Wesley Saint, and then also I did Zach Poyser in a second tweet. But basically, saying, okay, there's a couple of guys who I think the two freshman All-Americans, one from here, one from another school, in Frederick and Poyser, they should be starting, and then so he's like, well, yeah, I'm not saying. It's funny. People are now like dumping on OJ Frederick, runner up for ACC defensive back, rookie of the year on defense, or rookie of the year overall, excuse me, and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, but you had to go get all these other guys to come in. You want to see what Jadis Richard looks like after his injury. You want to see what Damari Brown looks like after his injury that basically cost him the entirety of the season. And yeah, you're going to need to go get new dudes. And I think that that's 100% necessary. And I think, yeah, like we saw Miami overhaul the offensive line when Mario Cristobal got here. This is that kind of overhaul. You're going to only have one. I mean, it remains to be seen, obviously, because everybody's job is up for competition. But I would presume OJ Frederick starting, Damari Brown starting or top of the rotation, Jadis Richards somewhere in that two deep rotation. And then, you're going to have guys who step up, hopefully, Zaquan Patterson into a larger role because he's a superstar in the mold of a Cam Kinchins, in the mold of a Jaquan Johnson from before, years gone by, these guys who can start 3 and 4 years. But yeah, this is a major overhaul, and it needed to be because that defensive backfield was terrible.
Kim, we've had the conversations about the all-time status of this program at the various positional units where you can make a claim at almost every position for a fill-in-the-blank QBU, RBU on down the line. But when I think Miami football, historically and traditionally, I think speed, and I think what two positions bring speed first and foremost. Well, wide receivers number one, and defensive back is number two. And for the Miami defensive backfield to be in the state that it was last year and lacking, and I know there's much more to it than just sheer speed and athleticism, of course, but that Miami should be at the forefront of defensive backfields, considering their history and the talent in the area and the brand.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you look recently, we have been, Tyreek Stevenson, in the league, Cam Kinchins, right? As a rookie, and everybody said, well, yeah, he's not the most athletic dude. All he did for a playoff team was make plays. You know what I mean? In the defensive backfield. I'm not even talking about, James Williams playing linebacker or Gregory Rousseau up front. No, like in the secondary. Deion Bush, shout out to him, playing with the Chiefs for yet another Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, there's got Rayshawn Jenkins still making plays out there. I know that's something you're like, what? Yes, absolutely. So it should be. And everything that you said, I think, played a part in why Lance Guidry is looking for employment elsewhere. And, as we're doing the position recaps and State of the U awards and everything, I took it upon myself to write the worst unit of the year recap for the defensive backs. And I gave some pretty bad grades. I got some pushback on a couple because, for example, like Amish Powell, I think that the scheme he was playing let him down more than his individual performance. Like he did what his job was, but that job in the structure was exploited, if you will. So I gave him a little bit of a higher grade for what he did, as opposed to a Jaden Harris, who he was not up to snuff. He did not accomplish his, role and responsibilities and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it was piss poor. And yeah, you did have some injury concerns, obviously. But you also shouldn't be in the position at Miami where if you lose Damari Brown and and then in game 9 or 9, I think it was, that you lose Jadis Richard, that shouldn't be the thing that those should not be the wheels coming off of the entire operation defensively. So, yeah, I agree. Miami should be better on defense, especially in the defensive backfield. And that's why we have a new defensive coordinator straight up.
Our guy, Leroy, the Black Ninja Turtle, chiming in with this one. We appreciate your contribution, Leroy. Who needs to step up and be our wide receiver core for Carson Beck?
Everybody. I mean, there's talent on that side of the ball. We've recruited really well. We need guys to step up. Ray Joseph, superstar from Miami Edison, was committed to Clemson. He's one of the few players to decommit and flip somewhere else to stay home, and was, a touchdown waiting to happen every time he touched the ball, punt return, kick return, reverse reception, whatever it was in high school. I need that guy. I need that explosiveness again. And this goes back to a thing that Justin DeTavio has talked about on the website for a long time. Fast players from high school get to Miami and don't look fast anymore. And I don't know what that's all about. But I need Ray to step up. I need Malachi Toney to, come to the forefront and try to make a name for himself. I need JoJo Trader to take a massive step forward. Because if everybody's saying that, it was okay that, Jeremiah Smith went to Ohio State because we got JoJo Trader, brother, you got a mountain to climb to make that a close conversation. And I don't think it's a close conversation, but to close that gap and to be the guy that everybody was saying, oh, it's okay not to get that generational dude because we got this other dude. That means I need that dude to step up. I need everybody in the room. And you got guys, in the freshman class who are stepping up, Josh Moore, Dalen Upshaw. I already mentioned Malachi Toney. They've come in like veterans into the spring, into, as early enrollees and things like that. Hey, honestly, I'm in a similar spot in my San Diego State dynasty on College Football 25. I'm in the year 2051. I'm the 2051 recruiting class, 2050 season. I have 12 receivers who are all rated between 89 and 84, with the slowest of them being 94 speed. And I say that to say, I don't care which one of these players in the room makes the plays, because there's plays to be made. And there's a lot of dudes who can go make them. Similarly to Miami, I don't know that we have a superstar at the top of the roster. Now, CJ Daniels coming back off of injury, you want him to be, in there as well. You are going to want your tight ends to take a step forward, like Elijah Lofton, like the Bauman kid coming over from Tulane. I'm still bullish on Brock Schott. I think this kid is a superstar on either. You put him at defensive end or tight end, I think that kid is something different. And then you got guys in front of him, even, who are still on the roster. Look, there's a wealth of options. I'm at the point where I'm not necessarily, except for CJ Daniels, because you got him as a transfer, so I know that you paid him sufficient money, right? Outside of that, in terms of value, the return on investment and the value proposition, whoever steps up to the front, steps up to the front. Make the plays. And, if it's so I'm not necessarily tied to any specific name of a person, as long as the job gets done. I didn't even mention Anai Carr, who's another player who, was supposed to, highly rated recruit. We got away from Georgia, and Colquitt County to come down here. There's plenty of options. I just think that everybody needs to take a step forward. And then, eventually when we get to the fall, that's when we're going to have tree shaking. Sorry, that's a music or band term, like when you shake the tree and the fruit falls and whatever remains, or, that's the kind of thing. So yeah, in the spring, let's see some of the technical development. Into the fall, we're going to get to tree shaking, and, whoever can hoop. And I'm not tied to really any name, except where I need it to be CJ Daniels, because if we're paying you the kind of money that I believe we're paying you, then we need to get, a return on that investment.
So based on what I know, and based on what you just said, it sounds like if you were going to make a wager on who's going to be a first-round pick or an All-American, then that's Trader. That he is the highest ceiling.
Yeah, from receiver, I would say, yeah. I mean, you could. There's the additional year on the time horizon for the freshmen incoming, and have heard really good things about them. But right now, I would say Trader. he's a freak athlete. He's incredibly skilled. And guys, when he was at Chaminade, the thing was saying it was a similar conversation, but not the same. If you remember, between Dalvin Cook and Joseph Yearby coming out of Miami Central, that Joseph Yearby was the complete back. Right now, Dalvin Cook is the athletic freak, and if he can put together the skills of being a running back that were lacking in high school, then he can be differential, right? I think it's a similar thing with Jeremiah Smith and JoJo Trader. He was saying, this is the kid who would always make the circus catches. His skills and things were crazy. And Smith was the one who was the physical freak, and he just kind of hulked up on people. And then you go to college, and similarly to in the other analogy, the one who was the physical freak who needed a little bit of polish, all of a sudden turns up freshman year, polished in a mug, and the other player is not as athletically dominant, but still has elite level skills. So a similar but not the same kind of comparison. But yeah, everybody knows JoJo for a reason. And between him and Nikar and Malachi Tony, again, you got Ray Joseph, who was all over the place. This kid was a walking highlight in high school. We haven't seen that. And I know he was blocked by Restrepo, the career-leading, receiver at Miami, at his same position in the slot. Now, ain't nothing but space and opportunity for number 5 to go out there and do work. So, yeah, but if I had to say the most talented, the combination of experience and talent and potential right now, today, I would put JoJo at the top of that list.
Falconer coming back with this one. Miami will win 100% in 2025, the Centennial year.
The Centennial year of the University of Miami. That is correct. I just got my email today to RSVP to the Centennial celebration of the University of Miami, founded in 1925, as you can do the math there. But yeah, a very exciting year for the U. Lots of great things going on. I just retweeted something from the School of Music, the jazz faculty and students doing great things. A top 3 non-conservatory, probably a top 1 non-conservatory jazz program in the world. Top 3 non-conservatory music school in the world, or in America at least, going with Indiana and USC at the top of that list. So Juilliard and Berkeley, those schools that focus only on music, those are conservatories. Now I'm talking about from a component of a larger institution. Hey man, there's a lot going on. I saw some stuff from Rasmus, the Marine School of Atmospheric Sciences and Study. Have a couple good friends who have masters and doctorates from there. And hopefully this football program and athletic department will take a step forward as we celebrate the Centennial this year, starting with the baseball team, who is going to start hitting balls. Well, they've had their practices, but the ping should be ringing out from Mark Light Stadium here soon.
Miami Hurricanes live each and every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time with Cam Underwood and myself. Of course, from time to time, we got to switch things up, so we appreciate you being here. If you were just joining us, please check out what you missed off the top, talking DBs and talking the addition of Terry Jefferson, and also some analysis at the wide receiver position. Leave those comments and questions there in the chat. We appreciate your contributions. It keeps us rolling here on the Miami channel at the Voice of College Football. So we will take it from the incoming, and we will take it way past even the NFL career to the Hall of Fame status of one Reggie Wayne. So I got to say, I don't know these numbers off the top of my head. I will familiarize myself, although I have seen them many times through the years of Reggie Wayne and know his career status and what he accomplished, and certainly watched him play a zillion games with the Indianapolis Colts. I am not going to come from a place of judgment to say he got snubbed, he didn't get snubbed, and I've got a watershed argument to make about it, because I would have to make all sorts of research and comparisons to do that. Yeah. Wide receiver position, though, especially in the NFL level, is a very concrete, like running back, where these are the numbers. And sure, there's very much a nuance to the argument, either to detract from the numbers or add to the numbers to say, okay, this guy balled out in the playoffs and Super Bowl, so that should add to the regular season resume, or whatever the case might be, or he played in on offense with all these other options, or whatever it was. So when you look at Reggie Wayne and the Hall of Fame, where do you stand?
I stand on the fact that he got snubbed yet again. Like I tweeted last night, this is someone who I believe should have been in the Hall of Fame multiple years ago at this point. I think maybe there's a little bit of a backlog at wide receiver. In the chat, you got guys talking about Hines Ward, Torrey Holt, Steve Smith Sr. Should also be in, and I'm not disagreeing with any of that. I think that Reggie Wayne also. Go back up to, or all the way down, but over 1,000 catches, 14,000 yards, 82 touchdowns, 200 career games. Like, what are we talking about, guys? I know that number 88 who played for them, is a Hall of Famer, and like Reggie Wayne is also, and it's past due time for that to happen. And again, I'm not going to say this year or what, like he should have been like his production and performance is that of a Hall of Famer. Whether it was 3 years ago, this year, next year, whatever, that's not changing. So he should have been in. And I stand on that. And I believe he's going to get into the Hall of Fame. I don't know why he's being made to wait. Sterling Sharp got in this year, and he was made to wait. I know that his career was cut short because of injury, but he was super duper dominant, and I believe should have already been in. And again, I've told the story on here many times. I'm not going to talk about it again, but I saw all of Sterling Sharp's career because he and Favre and Rodgers are why I hate the Packers. Like, there's generational hate between Chicago and Detroit in terms of athletics, right? Which is interesting for me. Both my parents are from Chicago. So originally, so I would go back to the Southwest side and go hang out with my family from Chicago, or even in our group chat. They're like, oh yeah, this Lions fan over here. I'm like, yeah, that's right. Lions, Tigers, Red Wings, Pistons. Like, yeah. And their counterparts over in the Windy City. And the Packers did so much that my generation, I don't hate the Bears, because whatever. The Packers were the source of my frustration.
Sure.
So I've seen it with Sterling Sharp. So I say all that to say I understand why he got in. Reggie Wayne should get in, should have already been in, and should get in the future. And if you're looking at those who are first-time eligible next year, you're going to add another Miami Hurricane in at one of the other positions that you mentioned, the third or second all-time leading rusher, Frank Gore. And that's a guy who's a Hall of Famer. And I don't believe he's going to get in first ballot. And I'm not even going to make the argument that Frank Gore should get in first ballot. But that's another guy who's a Hall of Famer. And whether it's in 2026 or 2036 or whatever, he's going to get in the Hall of Fame. But yeah, I believe that Reggie Wayne has been overlooked for multiple years. And his time, he's done the work, did the work on the field to be considered a Hall of Famer, and to earn that status, and eventually will be inducted into that fraternity, although it was not this year, and that is disappointing yet again. And he tweeted out himself, the gif of the shaking fist from Arthur the cartoon, again, because every year, it's just like, okay, I'm already of that cat. Like, he's not playing anymore. He's older than me. You know what I mean? Like, he was wrapping up his he was a senior my freshman year at Miami. You know what I mean? Like, his rookie year was 01. Like, he's done the work already. And it is frustrating to see, as I'm sure it is for any other player of the caliber of performance who was not inducted. And if you are a fan of that professional team or their other college teams, like I had a bunch of people, the snub of Torrey Holt and da-da-da-da. I say, you can take up that banner yourself. You don't need me to. I'm not a Rams fan, and I'm not an NC State fan. I'm talking about Reggie Wayne. But because I'm talking about Reggie Wayne does not negate the fact that, do you need me to say it? Torrey Holt should be in the Hall of Fame. 10,000%. It's not the case, unfortunately. So, frustrating in general. As a Miami alum and fan, and also individually for Reggie Wayne, I'm sure that is just continuing, just to be a thorn in his side until he gets his due recognition.
I used to be more familiar with the Hall of Fame process, but I do believe that there's a limited number of candidates. Of course, there's a selection committee to
Mhm.
even form the ballot to a certain extent. Or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it that way. That there's just an initial list of whatever players are eligible just based on very
Mm.
standard criteria of length of career, when they retired, and boom. And so you got this massive list of players. And then there's kind of a pre-qualification of the committee sizing it down to a ballot. And then there's the vote.
Mhm.
And like you stated, uh, I had this conversation with my son actually just the other day, but concerning the Baseball Hall of Fame,
Mm.
because we were talking about who were we? Oh, Andrew Jones in particular, and then it turned into as it always does, into talking about
Hey,
18 different players.
well,
But
Andrew
as a
Jones should be in, by the way, one of the
yeah,
greatest defensive center fielder of my lifetime. But
yes, he
hey,
should be
I digress.
absolutely, he should be. And so here is where we get into a numbers game, uh, because again, you're going to take up the mantle for Reggie Wayne because of your ties to Miami, and you have no issue with other worthy players being championed by their fan bases. But I wonder what the logistics, like if we could come to something close to a consensus of these guys should be in the Hall of Fame as of right now, whether the actual process and number of candidates that can be nominated by anyone or voted on by the committee itself even comes close to that number. I wonder if the number should be extended in
Mm.
regards to number of now of course they don't want to induct 17 guys in
Right.
July, because then that takes away from the attention to each individual member. But there seems to be a bit of a numbers backlog, as
Mhm.
you alluded to off the top.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get it. It's not, you want it to be special in each iteration and not just, okay, there are all these worthy candidates. So we're going to let everybody in and then trickle in a couple. Like you want it to be gradual and everything. But uh, yeah, it's a a test of faith and perseverance, I guess, at this point. I believe that he is a Hall of Famer. I believe that Reggie Wayne is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame and recognized for his Hall of Fame career. It is just going to maybe take a little bit of time. And we've seen, Sterling Sharp. We've seen other guys previously. I didn't look at the entire list, but I'm sure that, people in the chat, you're thinking right now, oh, this guy waited, or this guy waited, or this guy waited. It's not a unique situation, but it doesn't make it comfortable either. So yeah, and then we'll see, about Frank Gore, like us, coming up next year with his first year of eligibility. Again, I do not believe that he's a first round or first ballot Hall of Famer. But when you're the number 2, number 3 overall or all time rusher in NFL history, you're a Hall of Famer. Period. The end. It might take a few years though, but I don't necessarily think that changes the fact.
I'm going to divert very quickly again
Okay.
before we continue the Reggie Wayne conversation, because I know what player got my son and I started was CC Sabathia, a first ballot Hall of Famer. I love CC Sabathia. I'm an Indians fan. Loved him.
Mm,
Got my kids CC Sabathia jerseys.
yeah.
Uh, so my son, as soon as he mentioned the Hall of Fame ballot, I said, "Oh, I missed it. Well, who?" And I went, CC Sabathia is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I said, no, he's not. He shouldn't be. My son's like, absolutely he should. We looked into the numbers. I convinced my son. He's like, yeah, he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Right.
Now
Exactly.
with a
A Hall of Famer.
374 career ERA. Goodness.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
First ballot. No. Hall of Famer. I believe. Yeah. And also, whichever asshole didn't or intentionally did not vote for Ichiro to
yeah.
keep him from being unanimous.
Yeah.
There's a similar, like I think it was the same dude did the same thing last year for somebody, and I'm like, you know what? Just take your ballot away. Like if you, no, I'm sorry, because like yeah, you want to be like, oh well, like nobody can ever be unanimous. Like it just yeah, it's asinine that there are people and like like, what are you proving? You know what I mean? Like, it just whatever. Anyways, so
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. It's dumb.
Yeah.
And
So Reggie
again,
Wayne,
I'm not going to stay on baseball, but I could
right?
forever, and you would enjoy the conversation because I'm
Oh,
going down this
I'm with you.
list, and I was like, this seems so arbitrary.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are dudes that okay, they got kicked off the ballot, and it's like I'm not saying they're
Mm-hmm.
a slam dunk Hall of Famer, but Kenny Lofton, my anyway, we'll get back to football here. What makes football
Yeah.
difficult for me, Cam, other in comparison to the other two major sports, I'll leave out hockey because my knowledge base isn't there. But there are different positions in baseball and basketball, but everybody does the same thing. Everybody hits, fields, throws.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody shoots and scores, passes, dribbles, rebounds,
Rebounds,
etc.,
plays, defense. Yeah.
assists. So there's such a similarity in positions, but to be comparing offensive linemen to wide receivers to linebackers to it's just and I think that there should be some type of equal distribution of five offensive linemen to one quarterback. I don't think that that should be that extreme,
Mm.
but it's, I don't think too many people out there excluding diehards from that particular fan base are clamoring that their offensive lineman was left off the ballot or was not inducted into the Hall of Fame, except for very hardcore people, because there are no stats to go
Mm.
to at that particular position. But there's obviously snubs at every position to some extent. But that's the element with football that I think makes it very difficult.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's reasonable. So, I mean, your thought is reasonable. I still, at this point, don't think it's reasonable that Reggie Wayne continues to be snubbed. But one day they will get their acts together and truly and duly acknowledge his greatness. I see you laughing because I know what's going on the screen. Falconer TRX, thank you. Elon and Doge could fix the Hall of Fame in 24 hours. Yeah, I was scrolling the chat a second ago. I knew that was coming up. So
they're apparently going to get rid of the penny, which sounds like an economic efficiency.
That's something that's been talked about for many years. I remember reading an article about that in either high school or early on in college or something, or maybe it was one of my silent sustained reading articles that when I was teaching. But yeah, no, they've been looking into the efficacy of the penny or the necessity of having it for more than a little bit. So yeah.
Sorry, Charles. CC Sabathia is not a first ballot Hall of Famer, but thank you for the stats. I know those.
Yeah.
All right. Folks, we are here talking Miami football, of course, with all of you. And we will take your comments and questions because we are just about 1 month away from spring practice. Has that date been announced?
Yeah, it's funny. I was, on my other podcast, shout out to the Real Ones Canes podcast. Be sure that you follow, watch, listen, subscribe to that one as well. But last week before Brian and I recorded, we recorded late because I was actually looking up the academic calendar and cross-referencing things. So yeah, said it on there before, but has been confirmed through reports. March the 3rd, that's a Monday, will be the opening of spring practice. And as has happened in previous years, they'll practice for a week, take a week of spring break, then come back for the last 4 weeks, culminating with the spring game on April the 12th at Cobb Stadium. That's the track and field stadium. If you've ever seen a Miami Hurricanes baseball game and, the home runs that go over the scoreboard in left field and they go onto that field behind left field is Cobb Stadium. So everyone has seen it. You know exactly where it is. We will see if it will be televised or not. And I want to prepare y'all right now for the fact that you, listening to the sound of my voice, probably can't go. Well, Andrew Williams, who's in here, shout out to my freshman brother who was a recruit. I was an academic enrollee, and he was a football player back in the realist class 2000. But he could probably get in. You and I and Falconer TRX and Leroy the Black Ninja Turtle, absent some advanced networking and friendships and things, probably will not be allowed to go attend the spring game because there are limited stands at the track and field stadium there, and they're probably going to do it as they've done it before or did it last year, which I believe was limited special guests. So like your top tier Hurricanes club members, big donors, and then families of all of the players. I don't know if you can have recruits on campus at that time based upon the recruiting calendar, but maybe have some unofficial visits going on, and then do like a big, family fest cookout thing over on the Green Tree practice fields and Carroll Sofer indoor facility, which are, only a short walk away from there. So that's probably going to be the structure because, that is a stadium that holds 1,300 people tops because it's only one side of stands, bleachers there. So, if you were trying to make the pilgrimage down to campus in Coral Gables for the spring game, you probably will not be able to do so, but you will have 8 opportunities to go to Hard Rock Stadium next year and watch the Canes. So that is, I'm not going to say the trade-off, but that's the situation and circumstance. So, but March 3rd, they will hit the field. And, as always, there's a couple days of acclimatization. So, like helmets only, and then shells, so helmets and upper pads before you get into full gear in the spring. So that'll be our first chance to see some of the new enrollees. And guys, you probably will not see Carson Beck because he's still rehabbing his elbow. But, Luke Nickel can see, if Emory Williams, I don't know. You're going to see Emory Williams. I think that he's proven that he's a Jag minus, just a guy. But I mean, there's plenty of other dudes to, hit the field, and we'll see what happens.
In being just about a month away from spring practice, I would be pretty confident in letting everyone know that whether it be on this show or otherwise, that Cam will deliver position previews that will lead us on into spring practice.
We'll see. See, position previews for spring.
Yeah.
I'm always going to say the same thing. Like, I want to see development of skill. Like, spring is the lab, like that's when you work on things. That's when you add skills to your skill set more than like really win a position or lose a position. Now, like if you are tripping over, your feet and everything and you can't stay up, like, okay, that is, but more than that, like I want 0 injuries. I want guys to get reps, as many reps as possible, and develop their skills. That's really what I'm looking at in the spring. So, I mean, but I might, run down the positions and do that. But definitely looking in towards the fall and predicting, like what the 2 deep will look like and things like that for sure. But honestly, just spring, work on what there is to work on, and get healthy. Falconer TRX with a question: can Emory Williams or Luke Nickel beat out Carson Beck for the QB1 spot? I do not believe so. To be perfectly honest, this is a guy, with 7,000 passing yards in a couple of years. Up at Georgia, he was a big-time blue chip recruit his darn self. He's in a money season in a similar situation, but not the same player at all as Cam Ward. Like, he's coming to Miami to try to revive his draft stock and move forward. Now, I know you could have, and I've seen other people, say, why don't you just stay at Georgia? Like, you're going to be the starting quarterback and try to lead that team to their first championship since Grandpa Stett was quarterbacking them, before you, which is a reasonable question to ask. And I hope that it is asked to Carson Beck, when he's, made available to the media to talk about his, just to talk. But I don't think, absent injury that keeps him out, I don't think that any other option, whether that's Judd, Emory, or Luke, beats him out. I think it would have to be the only way I could see someone other than Carson starting is if he were to sustain a season-ending injury like Ryan Williams in 2014. And that happened in the spring game. And all things being equal, then they decided, hey, we're going to go with the true freshman and started Brad Kaya. If that kind of scenario were to present itself, then yeah, I definitely would see, okay, let's go with Luke and, defense, running game. Hopefully a guy can catch a ball and make somebody miss, and that'll be the explosivity in the passing game. But yeah, like on the merits of their ability right now, I don't see, absent injury, the way that either guy or any of them, if you include Judd, beat out Carson Beck for starting quarterback.
Back to your initial point. So Carson Beck is the two-time starting quarterback 2 years in a row for what is considered possibly the best program in the country, one of the top 3 or 4. Okay, he is going to a program that's, until proven otherwise, more in the top 15 range. So he's taking a step back from that standpoint, at least as it stands right now.
Sure.
So is this money related? Is this Carson Beck getting some type of guarantee from Miami that he's got starting status versus being told at Georgia, no, this is wide open, Gunnar Stockton's got a shot? Or just him not feeling it at Georgia anymore and saying this is starting to go a little south and I just want a fresh start?
I think it's a collage of all of those things, or at least in some measure. If he's making, $4 million ish from NIL, which has been multiply reported and, ostensibly confirmed. Okay. Yeah. If he just wanted to get out of Georgia and come back to the state of Florida. Now I know he's from Jacksonville, not South Florida. But that could be it. Maybe it was hey, like you were the starter here, but we didn't hit our championship goals, our national championship goals with you here. So maybe we're going to kick the tires and see if, one of these other guys better fits for that. I think it's a little bit of all of those and maybe something else. I know people are going to say, oh, it's because he's dating the Cavinder twin. It could be. I don't really think that that's a factor here, but I'm not discounting that it couldn't be. So I think it's a lot of different factors. I don't think that there's one magic bullet that's just like, okay, this is the thing. I think it's a little bit of a lot of different, scenarios that have come together to, pave his way to Coral Gables.
We get our guy Paolo showing up with this one. In your opinion, is it surprising because it feels that Miami has retained a lot of their own players from going to the portal compared to previous years?
I don't think it's surprising. I think it's the fact that there have been few players from the very top of the roster, as Cristobal was kind of building the roster in his own image, he shuttled off some of those guys from the top of the roster, all those SMU players who were all conference, right? Your Jared Harrison Hunts, your Elijah Roberts, who was down on the depth chart here and then, went there. Your Jabari Harvey, who had started 2 years here. Your Brashard Smith, who, was a running back his entire life, changed to slot receiver as a senior at Miami Palmetto, comes here, and then, you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And I don't think he had any path to playing time at running back here. I don't. I really honestly don't. Unless it's a couple snaps here and there. Now, he had a couple long runs when we put him in at running back, but if you're running the offense in the way that Mario wants to, you need a little bit of a bigger physical dude. And unfortunately, Brashard didn't fit that bill, but he was one of the more talented players on the roster. And then he went to SMU. He's a starring player. So you're aware of the losses of those guys in, because they continue to perform at a high level elsewhere. So from this year's team, and and then also, the receiver Colby Young going to Georgia and starting day one, Lawrence Cager leaving, going to Georgia, starting day one. There's instances of guys leaving and taking starring roles on elite teams immediately. So you feel that loss. I don't think that there are those kind of losses from the roster. So yeah, it feels it's not surprising, but it's different for sure. You know, like I know that there are, you know, talking about, oh, well, I don't want this guy to go, or I don't want this guy to go, or, you know, like we could have used, like Zion Nelson left this offseason. That's a guy who's medically retired. Like he hasn't played in years, literal years. When was the last time he took a snap? And he's had 3 or 4 setbacks from that knee injury, which was catastrophic, right? He's gone, right? He went to SMU to try and, you know, rekindle things, but that's not a loss. Tyler Van Dyke, that's a known loss because he was the starting quarterback, but it's not a loss in terms of production because he was throwing the ball to every other color but orange, green, and white 2 years ago, right? So he's a notable departure, but not a loss. So yeah, in terms of that, yeah, there are very few guys who left who you're like, damn, I really wanted him to stay. Like a Daryl Jackson leaving and going to Florida State, had to sit out the year, but then bang, nailed on starter, 3rd team all conference or honorable mention all conference, I want to say. So yeah, there are less high profile or known departures who are probably going to step into starring roles elsewhere. So yeah, I think it is a fact that Miami has retained more from the top of the roster, more of the known guys, because nobody is really, you know, beating themselves up about Frankie Tinalau leaving. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know if that's a difference without a distinction, but like, yeah, there are less top level players departing, I believe, than in the past.
Yeah, and Tyler Van Dyke, of course, made his way to Dallas along with half the roster from about 3 years ago, eventually.
And interestingly, Rhett Lashley said the goal and intent for Tyler Van Dyke is to come to SMU for a year to prepare himself for something in 26. So they're not even bringing him in to challenge to start, because I would think Kevin Jennings is nailed on, right? And then I don't even think that he's talking about the fact of like the opportunity that will eventually present itself to Tyler, even being in North Dallas in 2 years. So for me, I'm like, wow, okay. Like, I guess maybe he's just like, cool, we're going to get him in here, heal up, reset mentally, physically, technique-wise, and then he'll be among the top options in the portal in 2 years. I don't know. But like, it was interesting to me that was the statement made by Rhett Lashley.
Interesting. Paolo, appreciate the contribution. We thank everyone who has contributed here in any way. Please hit the like button and subscribe here at the Voice of College Football. When you see these notifications go out as well, just let family, friends, other acquaintances there on social media know that we are here for you basically every day to a certain extent here at the Voice of College Football on the Miami channel. And we've got some exciting updates to pass along here very, very soon. Yeah.
Very soon. But, you know, there's also updates over on stateoftheu.com. Please come over and fan with us. We're in the middle of the State of the U Awards, our position reviews and recaps. Got another couple of pieces that I'm working on. Well, and there's other of those pieces that are still forthcoming. So we've already hit several of your favorite positions. Several of your favorite players have been profiled, a la Cam Ward, because like we couldn't hold the MVP piece. You know what I mean? Like that was one, like, you know, when Justin DeTavio picked that, he was like, cool, I'm going to start writing that now. And I was like, well, yeah, because Cam Ward is incredible and played incredibly for us. So there's all of that and more over stateoftheu.com. Please come over and fan with us. Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The State of the U. My personal Twitter is at Underwood Sports, where I have recovered from my heartbreak of the Detroit Lions losing in the playoffs. And I'm actually back tweeting over there and everything. And yeah, so whether it is Friday at 2 or usual Wednesday at 7, we will see you soon. Thanks for watching.